This car costs around $10,000, while this one is in the range of $100,000. Do you know what unites them? They're all for kids. In this video, we will talk about the coolest and most expensive cars for kids, options that can reach speeds of over 100 km per hour, and even cars that cost $1 million. Enjoy watching. Technical innovations quickly find their way into children's entertainment. The invention and introduction of automobiles led to the appearance of car-shaped toys. The first children's cars had no engines. They were powered by pedals. In our time, a very ancient specimen of a pedal car has survived. In 1905, a children's pedal car of French production was created. It was made of wood and steel. Of course, such an ancient car did not survive on its own, but was restored. It is worth noting the appearance of the first children's cars. They really resemble the cars of that time. Similarities can be noticed with the first car by the brilliant Henry Ford, the Ford Model T. However, this feeling would be misleading, because the first Ford rolled off the assembly line in 1908, while this little car was produced in 1905. Nevertheless, at that time there were very similar cars, so it is not surprising that the creators were inspired by current trends. Further development of children's cars continued using pedal power. But closer to the mid-20th century, people learned to make high-quality electric motors and internal combustion engines much smaller. Around the same time, the first models of children's cars with engines began to appear. The price of such solutions compared to pedal cars was incredibly high. Naturally, such cars imitated the already created options. Not all initial copies of such cars have survived, and the cost of those that have survived turned out to be incredibly high even in our time. You will learn more about how much the coolest children's cars cost further on. Harrington Group cars. Our list is not opened by a separate car, but by a whole company that specializes in restoring retro cars and supplying parts for them. In its children's assortment, representatives of world classics make up the model range: F1L Racer, 250 California Spider, Cobra 289, and others. All of them, except for the parody of Ferrari, have the same dimensions, are equipped with a 4-stroke Lonson gasoline engine, 3-speed automatic transmission, self-locking differential, independent suspension, and other attributes of a modern car, such as adjustable gas shock absorbers and ventilated brake discs. The performance of these cars is almost adult. Their maximum speed ranges from 44 to 80 miles per hour. That's why the company determines the age of drivers from 6 to 80 years old, as long as their height is under 6 feet. But the price of such entertainment is also quite adult, starting from $12,250 plus additional options. Harrington Group's children's cars look like real adult versions of cars. Great attention is paid to the details of the replicas. However, when you see the specifications of these cars, you can't help but get nervous imagining your child racing down the road at speeds exceeding 60 miles per hour. The next iconic children's car is a bit safer, as its maximum speed is much lower, but this doesn't make it any less cool. Ferrari Testarossa Junior Prestige. One of the most expensive modern child-sized replicas can be called the hand-built replica of the Ferrari Testarossa by the company Cars for Children, located in Los Angeles. This rear-wheel drive car has a Kevlar body, a 5-horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine, an automatic transmission, independent suspension, and headlights just like a real car with pop-up headlights. In front of the driver is an instrument panel with a tachometer, speedometer, and fuel level indicator. It could be said that the little car is somewhat roughly made, unless you know that in the last century even real Ferraris were not known for their high-quality interior finishing and assembly. It's scary to imagine the maximum speed of this contraption. If Harrington Group's cars could accelerate to over 60 miles per hour while having an engine weaker than this Ferrari, it can be safely assumed that this specimen can go even faster. Needless to say, letting children near such a monster should be done with caution. By the way, the cost of such a car is very high. At auction, this specimen can be purchased for a price starting at $100,000. For that kind of money, you could buy a real sports car from renowned brands. Bugatti Type 52. We must mention the trendsetter for toy cars. At the beginning of the last century, many wealthy parents, after buying a car for themselves, wanted to introduce their children to driving a car. They ordered copies of their own cars or simply abstract vehicles, but all of these were unique items made by individual craftsmen. But then, a Tory Bugatti got behind the wheel of a children's car. The car was an exact copy of the Bugatti Type 35, equipped with a 12-volt electric motor, and could reach speeds of 30 miles per hour. After seeing this toy, renowned acquaintances and clients of the famous designer unanimously started asking for the same for their children, and Bugatti agreed. Thus, from 1927 to 1930, 500 children's racing cars were produced, and their owners even participated in special competitions. Fortunately, some of these cars have survived to this day, and some are still operational. You can buy them at auction. The lot price is usually around $55,000, but it can be challenging to buy a car at such a price because they're often sold by famous people, which drives the price up several times. If you find this option expensive, the next one will surprise you even more because its price is twice as high. Ferrari 330. There is also a replica of the iconic racing car Ferrari 330. The car's power allows it to participate in races, and children over 8 years old are allowed to drive it. However, even at that age, it is not advisable to let them drive this car. The reason is that it has the same maximum speed as real cars. The children's replica of the Ferrari can reach speeds of over 60 miles per hour. Such speed is achieved thanks to a 4-stroke engine with a power output of 6.5 horsepower, as well as a 3-speed gearbox. The car's weight is only 369 pounds, and it is made of aluminum. The transmission includes a semi-automatic sequential gearbox, rear-wheel drive, and a rear differential lock. The suspension is independent, and the brakes are from the renowned brand Brembo. It has 2 separate hydraulic disc brakes on each front wheel and 1 central brake on the rear. The car is equipped with an electric starter and alloy wheels. Perhaps due to such impressive features, the cost of this children's toy exceeds $20,000. This is comparable to the cost of a full-sized car. However, such specimens are not typically purchased for children. More often, they are bought by collectors. However, there are also those who are preparing their children for motorsport and start training them from a very young age. Next in line is the children's version of James Bond's car. Aston Martin DB5. The Aston Martin DB5 is a truly iconic car. It gained fame through movies featuring James Bond. In the children's version of the car, they didn't install all the gadgets of the Bond's car, but made a standard factory version of the car. This unit weighs a whopping 454 pounds, although it is manufactured similarly to the previous car on the list. The power unit with 6.8 horsepower is represented by a 4-stroke Subaru engine which, pay attention, can rev up to 8,500 revolutions. Everything is just like in a real car. The car has rear-wheel drive and it is propelled by a chain. The transmission is identical to the previous car, a 3-speed sequential semi-automatic gearbox and a rear differential lock. It has independent suspension, Brembo brakes and alloy wheels. If you read the car specifications, it may seem like we're talking about a real car, but it's just a children's replica. All that's left is to find the children's version of James Bond, installed machine guns in the headlights, and add wings. And there you have it, you can make a Hollywood action movie for kids. Audi Type C e-tron. Major automotive conglomerates also see potential in the children's car market. This is why Audi, a part of VW Group, has released its electric car for children, the Audi Type C e-tron. In February of this year, at the 62nd International Toy Fair, which will take place in the German city of Nuremberg, the company plans to introduce its new car to the public, the Audi Type C e-tron. Why at a toy fair? Because it's precisely a children's car, and according to all documents, it will be classified as a toy. And it will even be based on an existing model of a pedal-powered children's car. However, the Audi Type C e-tron will be much more high quality, reliable, and of course expensive. This is no longer a pedal car, but a full-fledged rear-wheel drive car with a real electric motor. However, it will be only half the size of the original pre-war Audi Type C car, which it is a replica of. This car will be designed not only for children but also for adults. The main condition is that the driver's height doesn't exceed 6 feet. The lithium-ion battery installed in the Audi Type C e-tron can be charged from a regular socket in about 2 hours. One charge will allow this car to travel 15 miles. The maximum speed of this children's car is 19 miles per hour. If previous cars for children have survived in a few copies, then there is only one of the next car left. Pontiac Club de Mer. The legendary experimental model Pontiac Club de Mer was built in 1956 for the General Motors Motorama Auto Show, and like many other similar prototypes, was cut up for scrap 2 years later. But shortly before the car's death, designer Harley Earl made a scaled-down replica of the Club de Mer. For the annual Motorama Auto Show, General Motors always prepared crazy futuristic concepts, visions of what the car industry would look like in 10, 20, or 30 years. The Pontiac Club de Mer was just such a car. It was conceived and developed by the great designer Harley Earl, who was never shy about his design fantasies. The Pontiac Club de Mer resembled an airplane. Its body was an aluminum monocoque, and the driver and passenger had individual windshields. The car had no bumpers. After playing its role, prototypes for Motorama usually ended up in the crusher because they were one-time cars, and the solutions used in them were not intended for serial production. This is what happened to the Club de Mer. In 1958, the car was destroyed, and all that remained of it were beautiful photos from the exhibition. But Harley Earl, who usually mercilessly disposed of his creations, for some reason decided to extend the life of the Club de Mer. In 1956, immediately after the tour ended, he commissioned the production of a children's pedal car toy in the form of the Club de Mer. The little car was made, and Earl gave it to his grandchildren as a toy. Later, he ordered the conversion of the model from pedal power to a small electric car. After the creator's death in 1969, the car changed several owners and was eventually sold at auction for $33,925. It's worth noting that a replica of this car was sold at another auction for $110,000. The most expensive children's car. The cost of the Auburn Mini car is astounding. In December 2011, on a website dedicated to expensive items, there was a publication about a children's pedal car from Auburn being put up for auction for $1 million. If you know the history of this American company, which existed from 1900 to 1937, you can assume that their children's car was made with the same incredible luxury and only differs from the regular version by the absence of a power unit. It is believed that the specimen put up for sale is unique. Finding complete information about the specifications of this car is not possible. What kind of power unit is in the car? What kind of transmission? What it is made of? What its dimensions are? All of this is a mystery to the average person, because apparently this is a one-of-a-kind car, and there are no others like it. More information can be provided by the owner of this treasure, although it is unknown whether they will want to share it. The cost of $1 million is madness. For that kind of money, you could easily buy yourself an airplane or several very cool cars. But as they say, children should have the very best. So perhaps this children's car is being sold just for you. Today you have learned about the most expensive and coolest children's cars, the evolution of this industry, and which companies still produce such cars. Thank you for watching.